Hello and welcome to the Weekly Energy Shot podcast. This is Matt Taylor and Nicole Ercolani, and we have decided to produce this podcast in order for you to link to the higher realms and have some Kabbalistic astrology updates, some wisdom, coaching tools, healing, practical ideas for your day-to-day life, so you can link to the higher realms that are available this week, and Matt will enlighten us what's going on. Hi, Matt. How are you this week?
I'm very well. But I'm going to be transparent here. For the first time in over a year, we had to stop and start again.
Yes,
It's our first time of a second go. It wasn't our fault. Technology hitch.
Technology.
Really.
What's going on with Mercury then?
Oh, I don't know.
Nothing.
Nothing.
It was just
I can't blame it on that.
Fine.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit at the beginning about the lunar cycle of Pisces, which we spoke a lot about last week. It's really the spiritual sign, so it's a big sign of enlightenment. It's the last sign of the astrological year, so this is really where we hit our peak in terms of really feeling the energies are very high, more not in the sense of fun sort of high, but more in the high of like a spiritual high. So we feel very connected more to wisdom or enlightenment or seeing the bigger picture. We see much more sharing. We're in a state of feeling more unified. So we know what the Kabbalists are saying, that the Pisces is ruled by two fish, one at the bottom, one at the top. And most, if not all, great spiritual leaders that we have across spirituality usually are Pisces. There's usually some transformation into being sort of, the weaker or the victim or the poor me into great transcendence, which is the top fish, which is the leader, great direction, great senses of being connected. So we start to feel the 3D reality a lot less in this month, and we feel the energetic reality a lot more. So people feel more intuitive, more sensitive. They feel much more unified. I guess this is, you would say, but there's a war. But if you look around that war, there's tremendous senses of unity. We have leaders going in for diplomatic talks. We see United Nations together, we see Security Council together, we see United States together, European Union together. We're all together on this, and even Britain is a little bit together on this, and it's been a country that's been divided for a long time. So, there's tremendous senses of unity, really coming together. So, so that's the kind of Piscean element that can happen here, even in challenging times. On top of that, there is Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, which are the two ruling planets of Pisces. So they really bring out the Piscean element. Jupiter is the planet of growth or expansion, and Neptune is the planet of enlightenment and transcendence. So these are all the things that Pisceans are very much about, if they're born one. But we're all going through the month of Pisces, so we're gonna all feel that.
Yeah. I had a really nice discussion last week when I was in Monte Carlo about Pisces and Geminis and how they make great couples, because they're both they have this two-sided way together, and like they're both like, the one is more in the emotions and the one is more in the mind, and how this is really nurturing. Like it was really interesting. I really liked the discussion.
Yeah, it's interesting, that two-sidedness, because there's three two-sided signs. So Pisces, Gemini, and the other one is Libra. So one is up and down, which is Pisces, and the other is side to side, which is Libra, and the other one is the other side to side, which is Gemini. And so these three signs represent the three-dimensional reality. We're in a 3D reality.
That makes so much sense.
Yes.
I thought so, because I thought, like, if they would have a Libra baby, that would be like the
the whole 3D,
Oh my God.
all
It
perspectives.
was so
Yeah,
interesting.
that's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I ask something about, because I know that Kabbalistically we're in the second moon phase of Pisces. Does this second moon phase of Pisces have like any, because it seems deeper. Like I don't know, but it from a energetic point of view, when I'm like looking in the last month and now this month that started, like the new moon that started last week, I feel there is a real deepening happening at the moment. Is that the case from a Kabbalistic point of view?
Well, yeah, there is two Pisces. So as we explained last week, the reason is that there's 30 degrees in a sign, but each cycle, the moon is only 29. So every 2 or 3 years, we have to make up that missing accumulated degree.
Yeah.
And so the Kabbalists explained that is made up in Pisces 7 times in every 19 years. Which is interesting because a 19-year lunar cycle is called a Saros cycle. That's an actual cycle of the moon. So we're in a year where we have 2 months of Pisces. It's repeated. The moon will cycle through that sign twice. So we are in the second month, and I agree, there is a different feel. It's a little bit more punchy as well. So it's a little bit more combination of Pisces and Aries. So you get a little bit more fire in it. You get a little bit more energy in it, or excitement, or dynamism, or creativity. Pisces is also the creative sign. So most Pisceans are creative in some way, artistically creative as well. Much like fire signs. So this one is particularly creative. It's a great month for manifestation or creation, So because it really has that link between water and fire, which is sometimes can be rather, the water puts a fire out and just makes, kind of a deadening, but actually it can be very exciting and creative and moving, and all the things that we really enjoy. So yeah, it's a good month, and this week starts with the moon in Aries, which is a bit more fire in the chart. So this gives us the senses of where is it that we want to, who we are, right? So Aries is the sign of me, and Pisces is the spiritual element. So it's really digging deep into who am I, who are we, because there's a lot of Aquarius energy, which is humanity as well. So who are we as individuals within the collective is really the message of this week.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yes, it's very good. So that's just the outline. And then, as I said, there's a lot of Aquarius energy in here. So we have on 0 degrees Aquarius, Venus and Mars went conjunct there. Now, if you remember the end of 2020, we had a Saturn-Jupiter conjunct, which shifted the energy from 200 years of Earth cycle to now 200 years of Earth cycle. So what that means is that Saturn and Jupiter will only ever be conjunct in an air sign like Aquarius or Gemini or Libra for the next 200 years. This shifts the energy from being very earthy, which is very routine, pattern, hierarchical, status, work, money, value, productivity, responsibility, etc. All of that, right? Family of energies. Now in the air energy, it's much more about consciousness, thought, speech, interaction, discussion, information, communication, and all that family of energies is much more in the head. Yes, air is the head energy, but it's also the balancing energy. So it's the center column. So where we always aspire to be. If we have breath, and that goes down the center of our body, it's a reflection of where we need to be. So the air energy is the balancing energy. So this reflects now this Venus-Mars being 0 degrees in Aquarius, because this Mars energy is very much about our will and our desire, and Venus is very much about our harmony and our value. So it doesn't look like much harmony in the world right now, as I said, and it doesn't look like much unification. But if you see what's happening around this awful situation in Ukraine, if you see what's happening around, it's actually pulling a lot of things that were very disjointed together, which these things tend to do. So, this is it's quite odd because Aquarius is quite a militant sign. They're very dogmatic in their thought, very ideological in their thought, which is the negativity of the month, of the age of Aquarius that we're in, is ideologies, dogmatic thinking. If you look at all politics, it's all become very militant, it's very dogmatic, it's very ideological, very conspiratorial, right? This is all the negative aspect. That's all the negative things in the head, right? It gets stuck, and this is my way of thinking, and it's now becoming so extreme. So the negativity of the age of Aquarius is very potent right now. But of course, the way to do it is to expand is through the sign of Aquarius, which is on the flip side, the consciousness and expanded thinking. So many times these negativities take us to greater places.
Yes.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then also we have the Sun is conjunct Jupiter. And as I said, Jupiter is about expansion and growth. And the Sun is there is bringing in a lot of light, bringing shine. So it's shining out to really, where are we expanding? Where are we growing? Where are we feeling more unified? Where are we more together? And where is our desire to harmonize? And where is our desire to pull together? So, for me, this if there was a bigger picture look at this kind of situation we have in all situations we have in the world, it's pulling us, it's the trigger to pull us more together, to be more enlightened, to be more humanitarian, which is the Aquarius also, and more collective, which is what Aquarius and Jupiter are all about. There are 7 planets in Aquarius and Jupiter of the 9 major planets. So this is, and in another 3 or 4 weeks, the moon will be there. So we will have 8 of the major planets in Aquarius and Jupiter. Aquarius and Pisces. So, we have a lot of energy around humanitarian, collective group things, which is Aquarius, and unification, sharing, and enlightenment in Pisces.
I think it's, I had to think if I want to say something or not, but I thought about it and I wanted to say something.
Yeah.
I needed to think about it.
I always have something to say while you're thinking. Yes.
I think the situation that you were just describing with, the need of humanitarianism at the moment, it really fascinates me because I'm looking at what's going on in social media, on different platforms, what people are posting, who they are finding their alliances with, and I think the discussion that we're having on planet Earth is like very special because I'm I'm a humanitarian since a very, very long time. I founded my own NGO when the Syrian refugees were coming. I was sending clothes to the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon because they had so many Syrian refugees because of the war that is happening there. So I have a long, long history in really doing humanitarian work. And when I saw, Milo's here as well. And when I saw that everybody was like, oh, now it's the war in Ukraine, I was like, what are you talking about? This war is going on since 2014. For me, that's not a new war. Of course, there are new actions now, and they're more aggressive actions. And the whole storyline, really closed down now, but that war is not new, as well as the war in Yemen is not new, as well as the war in Somalia is not new. And what's really fascinating for me is my connection that I make with the Pluto return in the United States. Because all those wars that are currently going on are going on because the United States are playing a game in the background and are like, you know, interfering with governments or interfering with like the Ukrainian war is actually there because the United States were like giving a lot of money to kill the president in 2014, to have a new president, have a new government. Like there's so much going on. And it's really fascinating that, of course, we have to, like, from a humanitarian point of view, I get why everybody's with the Ukrainian people. Like, I am with the Ukrainian. I would even give room here in the house to your Ukrainian refugees. This is how much of a humanitarian I am. But I really miss the differentiation in discussion. I really do. I really miss, you know, the deep dives of people, the oh my God, okay, wait a second, let's have a step back. Like, what's going on in general? Like, and there's this amazing historian. His name is Daniele Ganser. He's a professor at a university here in Switzerland, in Basel. And he's a historian, and he calls himself a peacemaker, a peace, he's watching for peace. And he wrote a lot of very interesting books about the role of the United States and the oil wars and 9/11, like all of it. But he really rolled up the past 70, 80 years of history. And what's really fascinating for me right now is that the United States are going through the Pluto return for the first time. And on the same day, like it was February 22nd, the same day, the war with the Russian and the Ukrainians started. Like, it's like how the planets are aligning. For me, that's very fascinating. Like, I looked at it, I was like, yeah, that's what it is.
Yes, it's definitely shifts of power, right? We know that the United States has been sort of like going down in power for some, it's been going down in power for some time, and now this kind of Pluto is precipitating that, and well, you know, it is always interesting to see that the light is always here in the business. So even though it's what the Kabbalists are explaining, it's kind of like an egg. So we only see the shell, and that's the negativity, which is of course there. It is not a positive place, but when we go down inside, there's a lot of light to be revealed out of this. And this, the chart is really saying here that through this more collective approach to things and more coming together, that we maybe not, you know, it's now seeing how powerful we are as one, you know, rather than having one thing over the top of us. Right, so it's pulling out that energy, and we see, you know, like in Ukraine today, there are many people volunteering, and this is all this Aquarius energy of volunteering, humanitarianism, you know, all of that as well. So there's something collective going on here that is very special, that is pulling it out. Right. Of course, we want it to end as quickly as possible. We want that light to be revealed, but there's to know that have that certainty that these forces are really pulling us in together as one and taking us to a higher place is really important. I think there's going to be many things that are positive after this, you know, and we will see. One of the interesting things, though, is the financial situation, right, that we're seeing, which is the Uranus in Taurus. As I said many times last year, financial instability will be fundamental, and you know, throughout this year, we'll see great people with a lot of money go down and people with not much money go up. And you know, it was a big story last year that I was talking about, and here it is. And it's all about really this desire to receive and not share. I mean, it's the people being hit the most are the people with a lot of money. So you know, they can't access their yachts, they can't access their assets. Their homes are now going to be used for refugees from Ukraine. They can't use their money. They can't access their money. The whole thing was really in the deep web. We see all this SWIFT stuff and all of that, which I spoke about, you know, last year, really coming into effect. So the new weapon is kind of your finances. right? So this is because there's a collective buildup of non-sharing. And so now we have to be forced into sharing, right? It's now caused such an energetic catastrophe of oligarchical collective, not just in Russia, but everywhere, that it's snapping the whole energetic status of this accumulation of wealth, which, you know, in a very small pocket of people, while the rest of the people are kind of being flattened out as to what they can have, which is communism, right? So, and that's just not in Russia. So, you know, that whole thing that we were really hurtling towards is being broken, and I think that this will be one of the positive things that comes as well, as we see that many oligarchs start to lose their senses of security. I mean, if your security is your yacht and your flat and your expensive things, and you don't have access to that, that really ripples inside your core. So this is also on the financial and the money side of things, and getting it moving again and getting it, you know, flowing again is really important. And Pisces is also the month of abundance. So we will see how this plays out, both as a collective, as people, and all our best traits coming forward, and all the different traits that we have inside of us coming out, but also inside of our general senses of abundance and flow of money, and the money as consciousness.
I love it. That makes total sense.
Yes, and it's the same in the States, you know, so there's a big, you know, big collective of money, but then you don't have it anywhere else, which we've spoken about before. And I think that those things, those ideas of draining out middle classes and draining out people who want to who have aspiration is a very dangerous thing. And it doesn't just happen in communist countries. It's now happening. Well, there are no communist countries. They're just either democratic and autocratic, and really the world is being flattened out, and, you know, in terms of its economics here, and then small pockets here, and then the people that support these are being voted in. We know this, right? It's happening in all countries. This is not a shock, but we're seeing it play out, really seeing it through the lens of Russia.
Well, I think if someone was interested in those power plays before, you could have seen it also in the Syrian war, and like especially there, you know, to see the role of the United States and of the United States courts, how they're ruling, and then the whole sanction embargoes that is only coming from the United States. Sanction and embargo on the whole world are like coming from the United States every time, and just the whole world needs to play along with them because they're an empire. They're so powerful, and so I think it's it's really, really interesting just for me to analyze the role of this huge country, the United States, in the world politics, in the world wars of the past 40-50 years, and to see also, you know, that like it's always about, at the end of the day, it's always about oil or gas, always. Like every war in the past 70 or 80 years, but the Vietnam War, were for oil and gas. And this time again, I mean,
one of the big discussions that we're having is how we get independent of energy from other countries, regardless of where that is, right? How do we become more free, energetically free, right? Which is Aquarius, because Aquarius rules the energy, and I'm talking about the atom as well, not just like electricity, right? And so the whole thing is Aquarius likes things flat, but so it's taking out these extremes where there's poverty and rich, and it's kind of flattening it together, you know. So of course this takes a lot of time. It's not just happening now, but we will see a lot of these shifts whenever we've been in a water sign age. So we're, you know, 2000 years is an age, and we're coming out of the age of Pisces. So if we're in an age of Scorpio or Cancer or Pisces, after that age, there's a lot of resources that are drained and sucked. right? And there's a lot of this feeling, right? So we always have after a water age, which usually brings massive spiritual enlightenment and massive shifting in unification. But we also see this kind of victimness as well, with these people at the bottom, people at the top, right? As I talked about with the two fish. Now, always after a water age, we have an air age, which helps alleviate a lot of that and extremes and hierarchies and things over the top of me, and I've got no power. So particularly in Pisces, all the power was given to God, right? And I'm nobody and God is everything, right? Now in Aquarius, what we do is we bring it more together, so that the God or energy or light or cosmos or whatever you call it is one thing, and I'm another thing, but we're co-creating. So we're reminded of that. And so this whole, now that consciousness that we're feeling will be co-creating, be much more togetherness, in this age of Aquarius. So it just takes time for things to shift, but a lot of these things are moving us in that direction.
Yeah, and I mean the Piscean age, at the end of the Piscean age, at the end, the last 150 years of the 2000-year age, like what we had then was we had the separation of the church, of God, and money and politics, which created capitalism. And like then money was God. And this is what's falling as well at the moment in the European Union. Like the European Union is like, when you look at it like from a cyclic point of view, has reached its high.
It's peak. It's peak.
Yes, it has reached its high ethic, and that's probably the reason why we're having like now those discussions about war in Europe. And I mean, I'm not even sure if Europe will not like have a war all over Europe. Like if Russia's like really coming over and he's like, yeah, let's destroy it all. Like, because it's like from an analytical point of view, if you look at it, like Europe has really reached its peak. And the capitalism that is here, and the whole rules and regulations, all the like usually huge conglomerates, they fall when they're at their peak. We had that with the Mayans, in Alexandria and Egypt, like in Göbekli Tepe 10,000 years ago. Like whenever a society structure is reaching certain kind of peaks, and I mean in Europe, like what are we doing but like having services, and like we're not producing anything. We're not like, Europe is not like really moving anymore. It's kind of deadish. It's like it's the bookkeeping department of the world, like more or less. There is a lot of banks and services and headquarters and tax havens like here in Switzerland, but other than that, like there is no production anymore going on. Like a little bit of cars and a little bit of this and that, but not when you compare it to the world, right? So.
Right. Which I've always thought as well. It's really like there's no competition, there's no innovation, there's nothing. Like, and that is an Aquarius age feel, is innovation, modernizing and new. And so if you don't have that circulation of air where you're updating, something comes in and now I'm not sure if it's Russia or not, but something will come in and allow all of that structure that's kind of blocking everything, yes, to not, because it's not shifted, there's no air flowing through it, which is an Aquarius energy, right? So it's the element of air. So we need flow, we need innovation, we need modernization, we need new technologies, new things. It's all very Aquarian, whether we like it or not. New sciences, new educations, new stuff like that. So we will see.
I think north of Europe, like Sweden, Denmark, Finland, what they're doing is like they really go into new structures, like how can we have new structures of homes for elder people and kindergartens, new structures of money making. Like they try to pay everyone a certain amount and then they just did with the time what they wanted. They had like the 4-day week and they tried to figure out if that worked. Like they're testing new, they're very innovative when it comes to new societal structures. They have like in Sweden, they have studies made like, what if when we're like having more equality for men and women getting jobs. What are they doing? And there's a whole study over all Sweden, and they
It's
saw
interesting
that.
what those studies show. Is they
It's
show
so
that
interesting because
actually,
it shows men are more manly and women
yes,
are
that's
more
right.
feminine.
That's right.
That's
Completely the opposite to what they were expecting.
well, they didn't.
Exactly.
I don't even think they expected anything.
But
But
actually,
what
it's completely the opposite to what they were trying to
yeah,
achieve. If
yeah.
we put,
But the
and I
feminine
noticed that
energy,
that all of these 50-50 jobs were things like parliaments or corporates.
nobody
I mean,
wanted.
we don't go to 50-50 in plumbing. So,
No,
no, but so the positions of power, no, and so this is it speaks back to the same thing. It just speaks to the same thing, that it's all this conglomeration of power over somebody else. And
yes.
I feel that this is not where we're kind of online,
And I think for Europe, like in general, it is really important now to understand that the structures that they're having are like very, very old and obsolete. And like now we have the chance, like I think this war like gives us a huge chance on unification, on oneness, but also on understanding what boundaries are, because that's what the Russians are basically doing, what Putin is doing with this war, is he's setting a boundary. There were rules, there were agreements with the NATO and the Russians, and they were broken, and that's
Well,
what
this is another Aquarius energy, is
yeah,
that where we make
boundaries.
yes, it moves the boundaries, it shifts the boundaries,
Very interesting.
So we will see a lot of political chaos and boundary moving and all of
Yeah, I
that.
totally.
And as I said, this is probably and there's light here, but we don't see it at the moment. It looks terrific, right? But there's things moving and shaking from this, I feel.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think there is a huge opportunity of deeper enlightenment, deeper peace, and also like, you know, human hearts touching human hearts, like on a, you know, and the collective can only heal when the one-to-one can heal. There is no option that a collective field of certain kind of thought patterns or behavior patterns or emotional patterns can heal when the one-to-one between one person here and one person there that are agreeing on peace is not possible. And I, for example, I have here in Switzerland Russian friends and Ukrainian friends, and they are united against the war. It's so beautiful. This also the whole.
Well, it's against oligarchical societies.
It's
And,
a
you know what I mean, because it's not all of Russia. It's not it's not a
not at
Russian
all.
thing. It's oligarchical
There's so
societies
many
in
protests
in
going
every country is being affected by this, and so we will see more of that. I think one way or another.
expected Venus conjunct Mars and 0 degrees Aquarius to be at the
It's coming.
beautiful. I love it.
Yes. All right.
But you have to like change.
Yes. Well,
I
when
think
there's
that's
stagnation,
very
you have to move it. You have to get air through it. You have to shift
yeah.
it around.
Get
Yes.
used to change. Like if you ever want to have an easier life here on planet Earth during this Aquarian age, like if you accept like in a deep dive that the only constant here like now is change and transformation, you will flow easily through that. If you still want to have things that get stuck, that are like, this is the way it is, and that's the way it is, and that's the way it has to be, you're like in constant stress mode.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's a lot of air energy. It's the age of Aquarius. It's the Saturn Jupiter 200 years. There's a lot of planets in air, so we need to be able to change and innovate.
Yeah, I agree.
As you said, yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yes.
Is there all planets on Eastern Hemisphere?
That's the final point, which means that when they're more on the Eastern Hemisphere, which all the planets are on the right-hand side of the chart, as you look at it, it's much more about going out. It's much more about relationships or external or connecting or interacting or joining, rather than going in and internalizing. So this is, again, this energy of taking us out to connect, to be the collective, to reach each other, to unify, to do all this. Yes. So hopefully we've drawn some light out of this chaos.
Yeah, let's hope so.
I hope so
That's
too.
beautiful. Thank you so much, Matt.
Okay.
So if you liked our talk, give us a thumbs up, a heart, wherever you are, a like and a follow when you're on YouTube. And we thank you so much for your time. And we hope that this was inspiring and gave you some insights on other ways to see and think things. And we wish you an amazing week.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.